This is the story of a movement that changed English literature forever. Romanticism did not begin with loud shouts, but with a quiet rebellion. By the end of the 18th century, people were tired of strict rules, dry logic, and poetry that sounded like mathematical formulas. The age of reason had given order, but it had also taken away emotion. Writers wanted to breathe again. They wanted imagination, passion, dreams, and the raw power of nature. And so, Romanticism was born. Romanticism celebrated the individual at a time when society demanded obedience. It encouraged people to feel deeply, to wander through forests, to listen to the sea, and to trust the voice inside their own hearts. This was not just a literary shift, it was a complete transformation of how people looked at the world. Nature was no longer just a background scene. It became a living force, a teacher, and sometimes a friend. Emotion was no longer weakness, it became the purest form of truth. The movement began with two poets who changed everything, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Their joint book, Lyrical Ballads, published in 1798, is often considered the official beginning of English Romanticism. In this book, they broke the rules of poetry by using simple language and deep feelings. They wrote about ordinary people, rustic life, and the hidden beauty in everyday things. Wordsworth believed that poetry should come from the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, and this idea became the heart of the Romantic movement. Romanticism also rose in a world shaken by revolution. The French Revolution had inspired the young generation with dreams of liberty and equality. The Industrial Revolution, on the other hand, filled cities with smoke, machines, and harsh labor. Many writers felt that human beings were losing their natural innocence. Romanticism grew as a response, a way to escape the noise and return to the soul's original purity. The Romantic Age opened a door to imagination. Writers did not want to copy classical models anymore. They wanted to explore mystery, the supernatural, legends, dreams, and the wild landscapes of the mind. This new freedom made literature richer, bolder, and more emotional than ever before. It set the stage for some of the greatest works in English history, and its influence still echoes today. At the heart of Romanticism lies a powerful belief that nature is alive, spiritual, and deeply connected to the human soul. The Romantics saw nature not as a collection of trees and rivers, but as a guide that could heal sadness, awaken creativity, and teach wisdom. When Wordsworth walked through the Lake District, he felt a harmony between his mind and the natural world. He believed that nature speaks to us, quietly but clearly, if we learn to listen. In his poetry, even the simplest scenes, a field of daffodils, a winding stream, a lonely cloud, become symbols of peace and inspiration. For Wordsworth, nature shaped memory, comforted the lonely, and restored the heart after grief. His poetry is soft, thoughtful, and filled with hope. He reminds us that beauty is often found in the ordinary moments we overlook. Coleridge, on the other hand, used nature to explore imagination. For him, the natural world was full of mystery and strange powers. His most famous poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, mixes storms, spirits, curses, and visions of the supernatural. Through these elements, Coleridge showed that imagination can take us beyond the visible world. He believed that the mind has infinite landscapes, and that poetry should explore them. Romantic imagination was not just fantasy. It was a way of understanding life more deeply. It helped writers explore emotions like fear, wonder, joy, and sorrow. It allowed them to break the limits of logic and enter the world of dreams and possibilities. This imaginative power made Romantic poetry unique, emotional, and unforgettable. Romanticism also gave importance to childhood. Writers believed that children have a natural purity that fades as people grow older. They saw childhood as a time of innocence, curiosity, and emotional honesty. Wordsworth felt that children are closer to nature and closer to truth because they see the world with fresh eyes. But Romanticism was not all calm and peaceful. There was also a darker side. Some writers explored loneliness, suffering, and the feeling of being misunderstood. This emotional intensity became one of the key features of the movement. It made literature more personal, more honest, and more alive. In this world of imagination and emotion, the Romantics freed poetry from rules. They allowed it to flow like a river, guided by feeling rather than form.
As the first generation of Romantic poets grew older, a new wave of powerful voices rose to continue the movement. These were the second-generation Romantics, fiery, rebellious, passionate, and often tragic figures. They burned brightly and lived intensely, leaving behind works filled with raw emotion and revolutionary ideas. The three major poets of this generation were Lord Byron, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and John Keats. They were younger, wilder, and more daring than the poets before them, and they shaped Romanticism with their bold spirits. Lord Byron was the celebrity poet of his age. Handsome, adventurous, and scandalous, he lived as dramatically as the heroes he created. Byron introduced the world to the Byronic hero, a dark, mysterious figure with a troubled past and a rebellious heart. Characters like Childe Harold and Manfred reflect Byron's own restless soul. His poetry highlights freedom, individualism, and the longing to escape society's chains. Percy Shelley was an idealist who dreamed of a better world. He believed in justice, equality, and the power of human imagination. His works often attacked the corruption of governments and the cruelty of institutions. Poems like Ozymandias remind us that even the greatest empires crumble. Shelley's voice was revolutionary, full of wind, fire, and the spirit of change. He wrote with hope, believing that love and imagination could reshape humanity. John Keats, the youngest of the three, brought tenderness and beauty to Romanticism. He lived a short life filled with illness and heartbreak, yet his poetry is rich with color, music, and depth. Keats searched for beauty everywhere in nature, art, love, and even in sorrow. His odes, especially Ode to a Nightingale and Ode on a Grecian Urn, explore life's fragile beauty and the desire for something eternal. These poets were not only writers, they were revolutionaries of the heart. They challenged society, questioned tradition, and embraced strong emotions. Their poetry was filled with passion, imagination, and a constant longing for freedom. Sadly, all three died young, but their work continues to shine with timeless brilliance. The second generation pushed Romanticism to its emotional peak. They made literature bolder, more expressive, and more deeply connected to the human spirit.
Romanticism may have been a movement of the past, but its voice still echoes in today's world. Its influence can be seen in modern poetry, novels, movies, music, and even our idea of what it means to be human. The Romantics taught us that emotion is powerful, imagination is important, and nature is essential to inner peace. One of the biggest legacies of Romanticism is the celebration of individuality. Before Romanticism, society expected people to follow rules, traditions, and fixed ways of thinking. But the Romantics encouraged everyone to listen to their own inner voice. This belief paved the way for modern ideas of self-expression, personal freedom, and artistic creativity. Romanticism also changed the way people saw nature. Today, when people go hiking, sit near the sea, or watch a sunset to feel calm, they are unknowingly following romantic ideas. The movement reminded the world that nature heals the heart and clears the mind. It taught that human beings are connected to mountains, rivers, and forests in ways deeper than we realize. The Romantic focus on emotion and imagination shaped entire genres of literature. Gothic novels, supernatural tales, fantasy worlds, and even modern psychological storytelling all owe something to Romanticism. Its influence appears in writers like Emily Bront, Edgar Allan Poe, Thomas Hardy, and even in contemporary storytelling that explores inner emotions and dramatic landscapes. Romanticism also made poetry more personal. Before, poets often wrote to impress society. After Romanticism, poets wrote to express their own feelings and experiences. This shift opened the door for later movements like Victorian poetry, modernism, and even today's spoken word poetry. But perhaps the greatest gift of Romanticism is this: it brings back wonder. It reminds us to slow down, to observe the world with curious eyes, and to find meaning in small moments. Whether it is the whisper of the wind, the sound of rain, or the beauty of a quiet memory, Romanticism teaches us that life is richer when we feel deeply. In the grand story of English literature, Romanticism stands as a movement of freedom, beauty, imagination, and the human spirit. It changed the past, shaped the present, and continues to inspire the future.